people who take academics as the primary profession. And you often get an opportunity to listen to such people. Today we have, I said, an unusual or a unique person. I don't know how to introduce Professor Sri C.P. John, because the language is always professor, but I think you can consider the professor of practice in UGC's new norms. First of all, he doesn't need an introduction, in fact. I don't think that I should venture into that. But since as part of welcome, I have to say at least a few things about the distinguished guest. For the sake of formality, I just want to say that I think so C.P. John, I would consider a politician with a very high level of academic sense. And his observations on contemporary socio-economic issues, be it at those relating to global level, at the national level, and at the regional level. They are unique, and they all have a CP stamp. And that is precisely the reason why Professor Narayana suggested Sri C.P. John to chair this session, which is also, this session is also going to be, in fact, the first of its kind. In fact, we recently had a meeting on how we will be proceeding with contributing towards the 16th Finance Commission, and we have an agenda on that. And Professor Narayana, you know that he's always a few steps ahead. So he has taken a specific issue and prepared a document by harnessing the youngest minds here, the new batch of PhDs. I personally feel that this is an experiment which needs to be appreciated, emulated, and this is precisely, you as scholars will be able to make a difference or realize how the teaching at the PhD level is different from the postgraduate level. So there will be many more occasions, and in fact, our faculty colleagues will be preparing a series of background papers by way of input for the memorandum of association, and we have an agenda in that. Yesterday I was discussing with Sri K.M. Chandrasekhar on it. In fact, hopefully I will be meeting our minister to have a meeting on this. So this is a prelude to that, and I congratulate and I appreciate your teacher and the fresh batch, the current batch, for coming up with this session. And we could not have got a better person to deliberate on, to lead this discussion and chair this session, because the issue of forest cover, which you are going to discuss, is something which I understand Sri C.P. John has mooted it. And in fact, he was telling us that he has had the occasion to interact with no less than 8 finance commissions. I don't think that many are here in that tribe. So, thank you very much for being with us. And I must also, as a final word of reflection, in fact, I was thinking what to say about you. I was thinking that you, in my view, it's a cost of democracy. I would say that the current political democratic system is one wherein the winner takes all. If we are able to articulate a no political scenario wherein, along with the ruling party, the opposition also has certain role in the governance, because they also represent people. For one seat, you lose everything. It shouldn't be the case. So in that case, the society, if we are indeed interested in the economic prosperity and social well-being of the people, we should think in terms of new lines of thinking. And in such context, your and the capabilities of many others could be utilized in the new democratic system. Okay, thank you very much for being with us. Over to you.
Dear friends, Professor K.J. Joseph and...
I also forgot to mention my discussant, which is
okay.
important.
Yeah.
In fact, discussant is the real person, in fact.
Dr. Ranjit.
Chair of the presenter.
Yeah, Dr. Ranjit. And of course, Dr. Narayana invited me to participate in a meeting in GIFT, and I never thought of chairing the session. I thought that I can sit like a spectator in the meeting. Often I had been here and I had to speak in several seminars here just after the presentation of the state budgets or union budgets. But this time, this is a big opportunity for me. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm very glad to be with you, the young brains of GIFT. And interestingly, when I came to this hall, I noticed the new design of this table. It's quite interesting. Is it not? It's not a straight jacket. So it is very important for the Finance Commission also. So, so I can see the face of all the participants here, since the designer has put you in that way. So there's an important thing. I am seeing this for the first time. I always look at this furniture.
You are the first one to openly accept it. In fact, there are
Really?
many who came here. That's why I say you are different.
Yeah. Very, very nice. Who designed it?
This is the Syriac. Just Syriac's purpose was that. And you will publicly acknowledge and appreciate it.
First time I'm seeing this. Okay. Well and good. So we shall come to the point. The discussion is about the forest area as an indicator in the horizontal devolution formula of 15th Finance Commission. Is it a good proxy? That is a subject. As you know, you have gone through all these things. Since the 12 Finance Commission awards have been made to the states for conserving forests. So from the 12th Finance Commission, the conservation of forest is an indicator. And from 14th Finance Commission, it is a big thing. It is 7.5% weightage. And in the 15th Finance Commission is 10% weightage. That is not bad. And I remember in the 14th Finance Commission, we got something from the forest due to the pressure we gave regarding the forest conservation. And I still remember late K.K. George, who introduced this point into the planning board.
Not completely, I don't agree with you because I wrote the...
You are with us. See, he was the advisor of planning board, and Joseph did not tell you that I was the member of the planning board 2 times, and I had been the board for 10 years. It's written here. That's all right. Okay. So Narayana was our advisor, and so we mean Narayana also. So it is a good advice, and we worked together. Came Chandrasekhar, mainly Narayana. I hadn't done such desk work for that, but I was with them. Then we got something, but last time we didn't get in the 15th Finance Commission. Our award was bad in general. Of course, forest was taken into consideration. But in this paper, to be presented, I need not say anything about it. You have done a good job. I appreciate you and congratulate you. The team has done a very good job. And I shall comment about it later after the presentation. But this is a very important thing. And moreover, the man-animal conflict, or need not say conflict, interactions are negative in Kerala. I'm not saying there's a conflict. Of course, for the people who are living near the forest area, it is a real conflict, and it's a very, very important thing as far as their life is concerned. So, state is very much worried about meeting that kind of demands, and demand meaning the conservation of forest itself is a big problem. But here I shall say one word about it. The main point is in a seminar at EMS Academy, where all of us were there, many Finance Commission members were there, and I was included in that group, meaning that forum. So I could talk to them and I could interact with them, and Narayana was there definitely. Then I asked him one question: why Arunachal Pradesh got 1.8% and how Kerala gets 1.9%? And the population of Arunachal Pradesh is
14 lakh.
14 lakh, 18 or 40, 18, like that. You have given the population percentage 0.1%, 0.11%. So that is a very important thing. Then how we can make some indices for the 16th? That is the question to be discussed. We are not going to have our own narrative and congratulating each other. The point is, I was talking to your director and Narayana, that we have to make some scenarios, 1, 2, 3, how you are to gauge it. For example, is it a per capita forest? Then it is a losing a forest, isn't it? So population, if it is a per capita, our indicator will be smaller. And I am proposing it's an X into Y, not X by Y or Y by X. So the point is, we have a 30% forest cover for our state, and we have 2.5% of the total population of our country. But our population cover is nearly 30%, and we have a good number of people living near the forest area. That's a very important factor. So we have to make some scenarios, 1, 2, 3, regarding how to devolve money according to the forest area indicator. That must be the purpose. So this is the beginning, not an end. You have done a very good job in the beginning or the start, well started, and we can go forward. So thank you very much for inviting, and we need not spend much time. So now it is 3:45. How many minutes for the presentation?
40 minutes, because
40.
quite a bit of the presentation will be done by the students.
Yeah.
So
Now I to invite Narayana. You will be presenting the whole paper and discussion. Okay, finally we shall. Yeah, thank you very much.
yeah, where is the look?
Slide here.
Slide.
Yes, pass it on. Okay. You have to make everything wireless.
Yeah.
Okay, Narayana.
Yeah. Very good afternoon. Professor KJ Joseph, Sri CP John, Dr. Ranjit, friends, students, and colleagues. It's my pleasure to present this before, when CP is chairing the session. Because as I was telling my students, what motivated me to really jump into it in a very systematic way is one of the provocative questions raised by CP John in the EMS Academy. He caught hold of me and he said, how do you justify, what he just said? I, of course, gave him an answer, because I've been working on this for many, many years. Like if he has attended or interacted in 8 commissions, I have also involved in preparing a memorandum in almost the same number of. So anyway, that's what led me to the thing. And that's what we are going to present today. But I have also done, there's some other objective. And in that sense, it's a test for me more than anybody else. I have tried the following with the current batch of PhD students. That is, how to pick a problem of current relevance and importance. Because this is often a big problem. PhD students come, they take a lot of time picking problems. So I thought, why not I tell them how to pick a problem of current relevance and importance. Second, how to analyze it. In the process, introduce the students to concepts, measures, data, because very often you have a problem, but you don't know where the data, what data and all that. So how do you get the data? Analysis. Then more importantly, writing and presentation. Because very often you may write, but still present. So these are the sort of things, you see, I introduce the students to it. So they are going to do quite a lot of the presentation, not me. I'll just introduce subject and then, yeah. And also soon it is going to be Finance Commission season. And like the 15th, I expect the terms of reference of the 16th are to be controversial, very controversial. And I think this whole will see, I am pretty sure, I think the director will definitely agree with me that there will be quite a bit of discussion, deliberations on these issues. So I thought, why not this subject? And no, as the, as we all know, conserving forest is a big issue, especially its importance after the Sustainable Development Goals 2015. Now it's a very, very important issue, and everywhere one discusses that. And in the Indian context, there is a responsibility of conserving forests rests with the states. And the benefits, actually, it's called the global public good, not only national, but global. So you bear the burden, the states incur the cost, and the benefit is global. Now, recognizing this, the finance commissions, especially starting from the 12th, have started compensating the states. Now, but how do they compensate? They take the forest share and compensate the states according to that. So the question is forest share a good proxy? If it's not a good proxy, then you are giving the money to the wrong persons, and the right persons are denied the funds. So they will become the aggrieved parties. So what we say, so all the 4 commissions have used forest cover. So that becomes very important. Now, if we don't ask this question, naturally the next one would, if they are going to give forest, they will again use the sort of a thing, then there are issues involved. And what is the argument that we are going to put forward today? When we talk about costs, there are 3 costs. Cost of conservation, which is basically the size of the forest department. Size can be measured in 2-3 ways. We'll come to that. Then there is the opportunity cost. Now that needs to be viewed together with the afforestation mechanism, because for the last many years we have afforestation mechanisms. So there is a provision for diversion of forest area, but then there are funds for afforestation. Then afforestation in comparison to loss, fund utilization, these all become issues. Then the third, cost disabilities. There the basic argument is, it's not just confined to forest cover, it's confined to when the area becomes larger. You see, the basic issue is provision of public services for a certain population. But when the area is large, there are costs involved. You incur additional costs. So these are called cost disabilities. So this applies to the forest area also. That's the way the finance commissions have introduced it. Now, there are issues, whether it is proportionate or whether there is a minimum size or threshold. These are all the issues that are discussed. So that is the third dimension. So when you put this whole thing together, our conclusion is something like justifying this proxy, it becomes difficult. That's the argument and the conclusion. Now let me quickly present before you how did this issue evolve through the last 4 finance commissions. Now The 12th Finance Commission, they made a grant of 1,000 crores. It was a grant under Article 275, and they distributed it among the states according to the share of the forest cover. The 13th Finance Commission, for them it was a terms of reference, a very important terms of reference. They awarded 15,000 crores in all for 3 items, that is environment, forest and water. So 5,000 for the conservation of forest sort of a thing. And they, instead of using total forest area, they used forest area moderately dense and dense, and then computed the share. And not only no, that's defined in the in the forest at large. It's defined. So very dense, untouched sort of a forest, and then moderately dense and an open forest. This is the classification. So they used these two. Not only that, they also did what's called an enhancement sort of this share, giving more weight to the states where the forest share is higher than the national average. Similarly, a higher share for very dense compared to moderately dense. So I found that enhancement mechanism, that method is a very interesting method. This can be applied for very other sort of, but the commissions after that have just forgotten that. I think it would be very interesting for us, what Mr. John suggested, you need to work out scenarios. In working out the scenarios, this enhancement to be applied for other indicators could be a very, very interesting. And I think, I don't know, one of the senior batches, I think we had at some point done some of these things, they may recall. And the important change that came out with the 14th Finance Commission is that forest cover became an indicator in the devolution formula, not grant. 12th and 13th, it was grant. 14th, it became an indicator in the devolution formula. And forest cover got 7.5% weight. And 15th, it became 10%. So that's the... And the justification, now all these commissions talked about, what is the benefit or what is the service that is given by the forest, and why conserving forests is important, and how the benefits accrue beyond the boundaries of the state. And then, I have described some of that, but it's fairly well known. Basically, these 3 calls, they described it in various ways, different commissions. But in all the commissions, it comes through. But very important point is that if you take the 15th Commission's award, this is what you will get. Forest area that is very dense and moderately dense, Arunachal Pradesh 13% share, Madhya Pradesh 10, Chhattisgarh 10, and then the other states have given the numbers. But the very important point, in fact, this is the question that I think Mr. C.P. John very, very powerfully sort of asked me. How do you justify that 0.11% of the population getting 13% of, I think currently it's about almost 1 lakh crore, 10% of the, that total that go to the states is quite a lot. So this is a lot of money.
13% is the forest area cover of the Arunachal Pradesh?
No. It's in all the states. The Arunachal's share is 13%.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is forest area.
Yes, not the total forest area dense and moderately dense.
Yeah,
it's on that
of the country.
Yeah, of the country.
13% goes to Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes. I thought this was your, your point. So that is what, of course, my immediate answer to John, because since I have been handling this forest, this thing and other, yes, because if they have 13% forest, they should be getting, what are you complaining about? But then that led me thinking about it. Isn't there a point in what the C.P. John raised? Then I have been thinking about it. Then, of course, the request came from Anup saying that you will have to teach the new batch. Then I thought, why not experiment something of this with because our director has been talking about this to introduce them to current things and all that sort of a thing. And fortunately for me, I found the current batch, game for it. I think I pushed them and they started working. So this is what the basic issue is.
Anybody did the percentage of Kerala in this?
No.
First true?
No,
First
first,
column?
this is my interpretation.
Yeah.
Because Kerala's share 1.925.
No.
No, individually, no, it
No,
doesn't.
my point is area of forest area
Ah.
regarding Kerala
No, it would be something like 3 point something.
3.
Yeah, it will be 2 points. Anyway, whatever it is around that. Yeah. But it's higher than our
So we
population.
think that we have big forest is only 2% of the total.
No, because it's not the total. Open forest is excluded from here. It is moderately dense and dense.
That means the whole forest cover has not been.
No, not really. Not
That's,
really.
that's my point.
No, we come to that. We come to that also. Yeah. Anyway.
2.9. 2.9. 3%.
Yeah, 3%. Higher than the population share. So on that, anyway, we'll come to that. So that is the basic issue. Now here you see the important point is that you take those 3 states, their population share is 8%, geographic area is 17%, but when it comes to forest allocation, they get 1. It's a huge amount. And that I thought is something which needs to be, because very often we don't look at it that way, we don't highlight it. I thought that way, C.P. John's question really was, it was bothering me. So that is what, this is also, I'm sorry, I'm deviating a bit. See, very often we say, how do we pick a problem? See, such provocations can also lead to very interesting problems. Why did this question come up? Why did C.P. John ask me this question? So you see, once you start thinking about it, then you'll have to find an answer. So this is also one way you pick problems. It is not that just reading a paper, or there are many ways you can do that. So I think with that, now, Gopika is going to talk about conservation cost.
Please.
No, instead you can just, okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah. As we have discussed earlier, the Finance Commission uses the forest area as a proxy for compensating the 3 types of cost. Now let's consider the conservation cost. Conservation cost is the state government cost on maintaining a forest department. If Finance Commission uses forest area as a proxy for the conservation forest area, conservation cost is a state government cost on maintaining the forest department. If Finance Commission uses forest area as a proxy, then that should be proportional to the size of the forest department. And the size of the forest department can be measured in 2 ways, that is through employee strength or through revenue expenditure. Now let's see what is the relationship between forest cover, employee strength, and revenue expenditure. The 12th Finance Commission has mandated the state government to prepare a staff appendix along with their state budget. But we couldn't find any such appendix in the budget paper of many states. So the data regarding the employee strength of the forest department has been collected from the annual administrative reports of the forest department of the various state government. And from the data collected, and we have plotted this in a scatter diagram. While looking into the scatter diagram, we can see that there is an overall faint positive relationship between these 2 variables. That is forest area in dense. It includes very dense and moderate forest, because open forest criteria is not taken into consideration by the Finance Commission. And in the y-axis, the employee strength of the forest department is shown. Overall, there is a faint positive relationship. We have to look at the scatter plot very carefully, and it needs to be seen in 3 parts. In the First, focus on the area below forest area 7,500 square kilometer, where there seemed to be a minimum size of the employee strength irrespective of the forest area. And in the second part, there is a mild increase in the employee strength with respect to the forest area. And after that, there is a sudden increase. That is the case of Karnataka and Maharashtra, where the employee strength of the Maharashtra is twice than that of Karnataka. But the difference in the forest area between these two states is just 4,000 square kilometer. So hardly any clear relationship between the forest area dense and the staff strength of the forest department could be observed based on the 19 states, because we got the employee strength of the forest department of only 19 states only. So the other measure for the size of the other measure available to measure the size of the forest department is the revenue expenditure, and it is readily available for all states from the official website of the RBI. And the relationship between these two has been plotted in a scatter diagram, where in x-axis there is forest area dense and in revenue expenditure on the y-axis. Continue. അത് മാറിയിരിക്കുന്ന ലേബിൾസ്. Okay. From the scatter plot, we can see that the dots are scattered all over the graph, suggesting that the relationship between two variables is positive but faint. And below certain level of forest area, that is 7,500 square kilometer, and there seem to be a certain minimum revenue expenditure has to be made. And to make our point more clear, I like it. Graph repair. Okay. Okay. To make our point more clear, consider the case of Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. Here, the forest area of Arunachal Pradesh is 5 times more than that of Kerala, but its revenue expenditure is somewhat 45 crore more than that of Kerala. That is 7% more than Kerala, and it is 5 times. 45 crore. 45 crore.
For which they are getting big. Yeah. Yeah, they are getting like that. No, but it is the size of the forest department. You are measuring the size either important them or revenue. The revenue expenditure are more compared. But one has 100, other has 500. That is
Okay. And it is Maharashtra which spend higher than any states which forest area is less than that of Arunachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh. Yes.
Now here what we need to look at is that
Could also be influenced by how many tiger reserves you have, and a whole lot of those things.
Yeah.
So when you just use the forest cover as a proxy, there is a very serious problem.
Yes, sir.
That is what comes out. Okay, move on to the next. Yeah.
So as we said earlier, if the forest area is considered as a proxy, then that should be proportional to the size of the forest department. While in the both scatter plot, we have seen that there is a positive relationship till a certain level. That is for a minimum, there seem to be minimum size of forest department, irrespective of its size. And beyond that, there is no proportional relationship. With the increase in the forest area, there is no proportional increase in the, with the increase in the size of the forest department, there is no certain increase. And we have also collected the information relationship between the total forest area, which include the open forest, because the conservation cost is not only incurred for the dense and moderate dense, but also for the open forest. So that scatter diagrams also doesn't differ significantly from what we have got earlier.
We have
So
we have
whether-
not shown it here, but those have been worked out. Yeah, no, it doesn't work in the paper, it is there, but we have not presented it here.
So whether the forest area considered in total or dense, there could be the relationship between these two is poorly related to the size of the forest department. So we cannot justify taking forest area as a proxy for conservation cost.
Okay.
And over to Amalu.
So in continuation of what Gobika has already taught, let's now get into the second type of cost, that is the opportunity cost claimed by the Finance Commission to support their argument of taking forest area as an indicator for the as an indicator in their devolution formula. So what is opportunity cost explained by Finance Commission? What is their argument? So basically, in the words of 14th Finance Commission, they say that while preserving forest, we must not overlook the significant opportunity cost incurred when forest lands are set aside, making it unavailable for non-forestry purposes. Basically, that means that preserving forest area implies that there is opportunity lost for development. So this basically origins from the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, wherein the act restricts the use of forest land for non-forestry purposes, or they restricts the clearance of forest land. So in this regard, the Finance Commission argues that each state in India needs to be compensated as they incur this opportunity cost for preserving forest, the global public good, instead of their developmental or economic pursuits. But in fact, we cannot rely upon this simple fact because the Forest Act does not really entirely prohibit the use of forest for non-forestry purposes. The Act in itself has provisions which allows non-forestry use subject to prior permission and of course payment. There is a mechanism for payment of compensatory afforestation. So what is compensatory afforestation? Under this mechanism, the user agency seeking forest clearance is obligated to compensate for the forest loss they have caused. So either by maintaining or establishing a plantation or an equivalent area, forest area, or by depositing funds with the forest departments to facilitate further afforestation. So given this provision already in place, the question arises is whether opportunity is actually being lost for development or any other economic pursuits. So when we took evidences from the Parivesh portal of Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we could actually see some interesting points that over a period of 5 years from June 2017 to July 2022, there were 5,111 project proposals, applications for non-forestry purposes. And out of those 5,000 project proposals, 4,318 had been approved over a period of 5 years, which actually involves about 1 lakh hectares of land. So it means that almost 85% of the total proposals have been accepted, whereas only around 50% got rejected. So majorly, all these approvals had been towards the developmental agenda of location of an area. So basically, major approvals goes to mining, roads, irrigation, defense, transmission lines, hydel, and railway projects. So these are all the basic need for the development of any place. So straight away, we can say that the argument of Finance Commission doesn't really stand here, because there is no opportunity lost in terms of development, as we can see that most of these proposals have been approved by the government. Now, suppose if at all these approvals had not been, this proposal had not been approved, say the forest area used for non-forestry purposes had not been approved for conversion, we could think of a forest area as an indicator for opportunity cost. Again, the question is that whether forest area is a good proxy or not, that is again a question here, but it could be an approximate proxy if we could find a positive cross relationship between the two, between the extent of forest area in a state as well as the area demanded by a state for forest clearance. So in order to check this, we have plotted a scatter diagram here. So on the x-axis, we have the percentage share of forest area of each state. And on y-axis, we have the state's share of area approved for conversion. If we look at the graph, overall, we can hardly find any close relationship between the two variables. Now, if we examine the graph part by part, we can see that okay. Yeah. So if we examine the graph part by part, we can actually classify the graph into 3 horizontal sections. So if we look at the first part, which is around 23 states lying between the 0 to 5% forest share of area approved, around 23 states are there in that band. So all those states totally account for almost 65% of the total forest area, and the area demanded for conversion of those particular states actually accounts for only about 35%. I mean, each of those states actually corresponds to just 0 to 3% of the total area demanded for conversion and developmental processes. Now, if we look at Arunachal Pradesh, actually Arunachal Pradesh is the rightmost one with 13% of the total forest share. Yeah, that one. So that's Arunachal Pradesh. So a state like Arunachal Pradesh with the highest forest share has the same demand for the forest area conversion as of Gujarat, which just has 1.5% of the total forest. So both the states have the same share of area approvals for conversions, but see that Arunachal Pradesh is having the highest share, while Gujarat is just having 1.5% of the total share. So this could actually, maybe because Gujarat is a more developed state in terms of growth, and it might need it might have more demand for developmental activities. Now, if we see the topmost points, that is Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Telangana, these 3 states, I mean, the 3 dots, which is above the 10 mark, I mean, on the y-axis, those 3 points represents the states of Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Telangana. These 3 states actually accounts for 50% of the total demand for area approval, area converted. So actually what we need to understand from this graph is that there is no clear relationship between the extent of forest area held by each state as well as the demand by each state for forest area conversion for various developmental purposes. Actually, one cannot simply say that a state with highest forest share is accountable for the highest demand for forest conversion and further developmental activities. This conversion is not really a function of forest area, but there could be another reasons like the developmental pressure of a state or the availability of mineral resources in a state, infrastructural need of the state, etc. So from this, we can conclude that forest area is not really a good proxy for opportunity cost. Now, another question one could possibly think of while looking at all these data and figures is that, despite a number of conversions are taking place, so does this actually lead to a fall in forest cover? So, in order to understand this, we really need to know an agency named Kamba in this regard. So, as I said earlier, following the Forest Conservation Act in 1980 and a few amendments in 1988 and 2003, any diversion of the forest land need to be compensated by an equivalent value calculated on the basis of net present value, which is basically based on the biodiversity content and ecological services provided by a forest. So these funds directly flow into a body named Kampa under central government. So let's now get into a little backstory of Kampa. So the Kampa compensatory afforestation mechanism was already there in place by Forest Act. And in 2004, the Kampa was actually notified by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Further, in 2006, this ad hoc Kampa was, the Supreme Court directly constituted the ad hoc Kampa in 2006. Further, in 2009, from 2014 onwards, the Supreme Court ordered state Kampas to give powers to them to become fully operational and to directly get into the process of afforestation and conservation. So, what as we have already seen, forest diversion is constantly increasing from the year 2017 to 22. Simultaneously, significant uptick in afforestation efforts can also be seen as a result of Kampa afforestation efforts and other schemes. This can also be read along with the fact that the forest cover is also increasing between the years 2007 and 2021. There is an increase of about 0.69 percentage points in these years. Okay, now coming to the analysis of Kampa and its afforestation efforts during a period of between 2017 and 21. So this is basically a graph with x-axis showing the states and y-axis the forest area. We have two variables. So the orange shade represents the area brought under afforestation as a share of total of afforested and diverted land. And the blue shade shows the area of forest area diverted as a share of total of afforested and diverted. Basically, both the two variables has the same denominator and both are complementing each other, adding up to 100. So it is very evident that in all the states, the area brought under afforestation is significantly higher than the area of diversion for non-forestry purposes. So if we closely look at those states which actually come close up to the 50% mark, the states are namely Gujarat, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, and West Bengal. So these states actually, the afforestation and the area of diversion is both are equal in these states. This could be because these states are more developed in terms of growth, and when compared to other states, the demand for developmental activities, therefore forest conversion is much higher compared to other states. Conversion is low. Afforestation is more. Yeah. So we can conclude 2 points from this graph. Thus, diversion is constantly taking place in each state, and there is no point in arguing that there is opportunity being lost in terms of development. Secondly, ideally, one would think that all these conversion might lead to deforestation and loss in forest cover. But instead of that, what we are seeing here is that the area under afforestation efforts are more than forest being diverted for similar purposes. So this substantiates the potential effectiveness of Kampa and its afforestation efforts with regard to the forest diversion. Another point I would like to add here, we can read along with the same thing, is about the functioning of Kamba funds. So this graphs is the transfer and utilization of Kamba funds in the period between 2019 to 2022. So as we can see, out of the total funds transferred to each states in the country, none of the states actually utilized even half the allocated amounts. So we can see that, namely, sorry. Yeah, especially we can see a poor utilization of funds by namely Arunachal Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh, where these three states are the largest recipients of the Finance Commission awards. Even those states, even in those states, Kamba funds are underutilized. So we can clearly see that in most of the state, there are surplus funds remaining with the Kamba funds. So despite underutilization of these funds, our afforestation targets have been more than met. So finally, these are what I can conclude from this section is that hardly any significant opportunity is lost in the name of preserving forests. Diversion is taking place at a constant pace, but there is no loss in the forest cover. Instead, afforestation is taking place at a faster pace more than diversion. We also saw that despite Kamba funds are being underutilized, especially by those states which holds about 1/3 of the total allocated amounts. So even though this is happening, conservation targets have already been met. So there is no ground for the Finance Commission for further allocations, and we cannot take forest area as a good proxy for opportunity cost. Or to Surya.
So now we all are aware about what is Kamba. So along with Kamba, there are numerous certain programs by government for afforestation and wildlife management. That is National Afforestation Program and Green India Mission. The National Afforestation Program was actually operationalized in the year 2000. And it was actually basically the merged form of 4 centrally sponsored schemes. This program was mainly managed by National Afforestation and Eco Development Board under the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change. And later in 2008, we all are aware about the National Action Plan on Climate Change came into existence. The 6th mission under National Action Plan was National Mission for Green India, generally known as Green India Mission. This program was introduced in the year 2014. Later in 2018-19, these two programs, that is NAP and Green India Mission, were merged. And this table shows the budget allocation for NAP and Green India Mission over the last 5 years. Up to the year 2017-18, the separate budgets were allocated for NAP and Green India Mission. From 2018-19 onwards, the amount shows the combined allocation, because in the year 2 programs were merged. So the amount shows the combined allocation for NAP and Green India Mission. From this table, it is clear that over the last 5 years, the budget allocation for NAP and Green India Mission was increased. And when we are analyzing the last 2 years, the budget allocation is increased from 160 crores to 220 crores. So the point is that there are enough funds allocated for NAP, Green India Mission, and also for Kamba. So the question is why we need additional fund allocation by in the name of horizontal devolution by Finance Commission.
So, I say, okay.
So now we have discussed about conservation cost and opportunity cost, and we are in the introduction stage. We have discussed about one more cost, that is cost disability. So what are cost disabilities means? From the Finance Commission, 10th Finance Commission onwards, they have used geographic area as a criterion in the horizontal devolution formula and assigned as a weight of 15%. So the argument behind using geographical area was, the larger the area, greater is the expenditure requirement for providing comparable services, namely administrative expenses. When the size of the state increases, there will be definitely some administrative costs that have to be accounted for. So when we discussed about this conservation cost and all, we have came to studied a point that is minimum cost. So whatever may be the size, maybe that means every state will have a minimum size. So that minimum size will have a minimum expenditure. So for accounting that, the Finance Commission, when they are allocating that amount in the devolution formula, they have assigned a threshold limit of 2%. So when they are considering the geographical area, they are making ensure that to account for the minimum size, every state is getting a minimum 2% floor rate. That means out of the 28 states, 12 states are classified as small states and they are like getting 2% share. So which means that Finance Commission to account for the minimum size, the proxy is able to capture the minimum cost. So the table which shows a forest area which are used by the Finance Commission, and they are using the adjusted geographic area, not the actual geographic area, because they are adjusting the 2% threshold limit. So if they are adjusting the geographic area, why not they are considering the forest? So that is a genuine question to be answered. Like if the Finance Commission to account for the minimum size or minimum cost, but we are seeing that every state government is incurring a minimum cost to conserve the forest department. So there is a minimum cost. For accounting that minimum cost, there should be a minimum cost incurred by the forest department. But for accounting that thing, there is no adjustment made for the forest area. They have just taken the actual forest area of the various states. And also we can see that when the Finance Commission is considering the geographic area, forest area is already a part of the geographic area. So there happens a double counting. So forest area is already counted in the geographic area, and also a separate 10% is assigned for the forest area. So that leads to a double counting issue. Overlapping. So that is an issue. And also we can see if you just look into the third column and fourth column, that is adjusted geographic area and revenue expenditure percentage on the forest department, we can see there is a kind of a much closer correspondence between adjusted geographic area and revenue expenditure, because 18% of the expenditure is spent on around 15% of the geographic area, and like 30% of the expenditure is spent on 25% of the geographic area, and like around 50% of the expenditure is being spent on 60% of the area. So there is a much closer correspondence. So as we already said, this geographic area includes this forest cover. So so from this, to account for cost visibility, why they are considering this forest area? Inside that, we are just saying that for account for just to control for cost disability, forest area does not stand to be a good proxy. Instead, the geographic area is already considering the forest area. So inside that, what we can say that Finance Commission can increase the weightage for the geographic area because it is already accounting for the forest area, adjusted geographic area. Yeah. Yes, that means that no floor has been set for forest area, by which we can say that 8% of the 8% of the population is getting around 1/3 of the share in the forest area. So, and like the measure of forest area provides funds more than proportionality to large holders. So, what we conclude that this cost disability kind of this is not a good proxy for cost disabilities arising out of forest area.
Anand. So we start our discussions based on the question that is forest cover a good proxy for the cost involved in preservation of forest? And based on our studies and analysis, it is clearly seen that the three costs which are put forward by the Finance Commission as a basis for awarding tax shares and grants, the forest cover is not a good proxy for considering the award of tax shares and grants. So when we look into the first cost, the cost of conservation, whether measured by staff strength or revenue expenditure, is not proportionate to the size of the state's forest cover. And as regards opportunity cost, forest diversion proposals, almost 85% of the proposals are approved, and compensatory funds are unutilized in most of the cases. And afforestation has increased the forest area. So the opportunity cost argument is not standing. And the cost disability argument, the Finance Commission has not considered the minimum cost of maintaining a forest in the case of they have considered it in the case of geographic area, but they have not considered it in the case of conservation of forests, and also including forest cover, which is also the part of geographic area as a proxy for cost disability is like a double counting. So in sum, all these three costs are not cannot be proxied by the forest cover. So the next question we are asking is additional compensation necessary now? The presence of well-established mechanisms like CAMBA and NAP, and most of the CAMBA funds are unutilized, and also the three states which are getting the 33% of the Finance Commission's devolution funds have most of the unutilized CAMBA funds, and we are asking that there is a proper fund flow mechanism in existence. So what is the need for additional fund flow?
Okay, the presentations are over. So the floor is open for the discussion. Yeah, discussion, the official discussion, designated discussion.
Already
Dr. Ranjit, please come on.
Thank you, Professor D. Narayan and team for this insightful presentation. On the topic, does the forest cover serves as a reliable proxy? So they have already made a point that it is not a reliable proxy. So that answer is clear. So they have made it in a very detailed presentation, step by step manner. I read the whole article. So it's neatly written. So it consists of 7 sections. So in the introduction section itself, they have clearly indicated that what they are going to convey. I mean, most of the things. So there they started with this UNDP's remarks on conserving the forest, and then they connect to the Finance Commission arguments. I mean, Finance Commission is why they have incorporated this particular indicator. And last 4 commissions, they emphasize more on this forest cover, and particularly the 14th and 15th Finance Commissions, they included forest cover as the indicator for their formula, I mean their devolution formula. And then they have organized, I mean, they have made the significance of the problem in this introduction part, where they conveyed that 3 vantage points, that is the conservation cost, opportunity cost, and the cost of disability for the forest. So these 3 things, and they have made that because of their the indicator, the way the figures and their relation with this forest cover, you cannot say that this is not a best proxy. And in the subsections, the first subsections, they have mentioned in detail about the Finance Commission's provisions, starting from 12th Finance Commission, where they have used as this forest cover as they have incorporated forest cover for grant. 1,000 crores have been allocated based on considering the forest cover, and 13 Finance Commissions incorporated again the grant option for forest preservation. They have done some 500 crore, And 14 Finance Commission first time introduced forest cover as the devolution criteria. Then so 7.5 is the formula share, and 15 Finance Commission just continued the same with higher proportion, 10%. Yeah, so this is the thing, and they have mentioned all evolutionary story in that particular session. Then they have moved to the 3 points, the major points in 3 sections. 4 sections, but the third section, so the second part, they have made it into 2. One is the opportunity cost as such, then the programs, NAP and the Green India program. So in the third session, the first conservation cost, where they have taken the size of forest department as the consideration for comparing. They compared with the forest cover. So size of forest department, one is the strength of the employees in the forest department, and the revenue expenditure. So in both the cases, they have related with the forest cover, and they found that it is not very closely related with the forest cover. So that is the thing. So you cannot say that it's a proxy for this for considering the conservation cost. Then they move to the opportunity cost in the 4th section, where they have mentioned that. So there is a Forest Act, in Forest Act 1980, where you have you cannot, basically the forest land you cannot convert to any other purposes. But if you want to convert, there is a provision for afforestation, compensation afforestation provision. So either payment or some plantation. So that is an option. So their argument is, based on these figures, it is seen that because of the point is that many land is basically converted to the non-forestry purposes. So, but it is compensated in some way. So afforestation also happened. So no opportunity is lost. So basically the development cost, for the development purposes, we need forest, or because of that they have for development purposes, they can convert. Some of the states, most of the states converted to the non-forestry activities, and so basically the forest cover is not lost. No opportunity is lost. Basically the afforestation costs, Kampa, NAP, and Green India project, they basically added to the total forestation cover. And the fund, basically the Kampa fund is not utilized by many states. And deforestation and afforestation, the ratio, if you see, that is also not add to this point of opportunity lost. And the 5th part basically talks about the 5th section basically talks about the NAP and India mission of the central government. So that is also made provision for huge fund for afforestation. A huge fund for afforestation. Yeah. So, but still, many of the states, the case of Arunachal Pradesh and all, they have already noted in that graph. So the huge amount of fund is unutilized. So that is the point. So all together, the opportunity lost is not justified. So that's the point. Then the last part, the 6th section, basically talks about the cost of disability. So there, the basic point is already geographical area is a consideration from 10th Finance Commission onwards. So every Finance Commission, so from 10th onwards, every Finance Commission is having a certain provision, certain percentage is going for geographical area. So and there is a percentage point, right? That is a floor threshold. So that is anyway going to this one, but So it's already forest cover is also a part of the geographical area. They have this is geographical area provision. And but when you consider this forest cover, there is no floor percentage or anything. So, but it is considered. So it's a kind of double counting. And they compared this particular case with the for revenue expenditure. So that is also showing. It is also not showing as reliable results. So with these 3 points, they are arguing that, I mean, the final argument is that the forest cover is not serving a reliable proxy for granting the provision. So, and the last part, in the conclusion part, they have made the summary of the whole argument, and they made the point. But in the last part, they have made a suggestion saying that an index of revenue expenditure may be a better option. It's just a plain statement. I don't know. I didn't get any clarity on that argument, but otherwise, the flow of presentation was very structured, well structured. I mean, anybody who goes through, I mean, anybody can go through the entire this thing. So it's step-by-step manner. I mean, they have made a wonderful presentation. So, I mean, I could simply follow in 1 or 2 readings. I could completely glance the entire thing. I didn't do I mean, I just started in the morning only. So, I mean, it's a completely well narrated, document. So that's what I got from the paper. Thank you.
So the floor is open now. Yes. Any comments from faculty or students? Please come on. Now it is 4:44.
I was wondering, historically, if you look at the body loans report, government has been giving a lot of importance to forest in Kerala. Has forest always been promoted with the issue of sustainability? If you take the case of Kerala, say 50 years ago, if you have deforested 10 acres of land, it was the 10 acres of forest, that was considered as a major achievement. I converted 100 acres of forest to rubber plantation or cardamom plantation, or converted to food crop production. Sarsipi was actually, yeah. So now the question is, the whole approach towards forest has changed primarily because of our awareness about the externalities and the need for. Now the question is, when you are considering a forest, it's also a source of revenue for the state. I don't know how much is the forest revenue that in all these calculations, whether one should be, when you're considering the forest, which today we consider as a global public good, because we are doing a great sacrifice by maintaining forest. Otherwise, it could have been used for. I don't know. I don't know. So that's what we are actually. That's why we have to compensate. That's why we have to be paid. We are, in fact. Otherwise, there's no question of any devolution coming in. Now, I was actually wondering whether should we take forest in terms of the net cost, I would say. We have a revenue, when you talk about revenue expenditure, which the state incurs for forest department staff, etc., it's fine. But you also have a revenue out of that. Does how the states vary in terms of that? There may be states which are not getting anything, but they spend a lot. Should such states be rewarded more as compared to the others who are getting a lot of money? I don't know. I'm asking the question the right man. It's something which I think whether it has occurred to you or that is irrelevant. Which way, by taking that kind of indicator, which way Kerala will be get affected? If it is Kerala is not going to be not getting affected, just keep quiet.
Before opening the floor for the discussion, I have a difference of opinion regarding your argument, not the paper. The paper is a well drafted one, well researched, well presented. Congratulations. But the most relevant question is sacrifice versus survival. Survival. So when we consider the existence of the forest, it is our survival method for the mankind. It is not a sacrifice we are offering to the forest. Forest is not a phenomena which is out of our life and what you call the existence of the mankind. So we have to have the forest. That's the point. You are not sacrificing anything by maintaining the forest. By maintaining the forest properly, you are really surviving. Yeah. So you have to reread it. That is point number one. So maintaining the forest is not for having some revenue or for getting some compensation for the maintenance. So the attitude from the global perspective is that we have to have our forest maintained very well for the survival of the mankind. Interestingly, as a book is in front of me, the COVID pandemic, I have extensively read and spoken regarding the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic is argued as zoonotic. The greatest destruction of forest happened in 2019 and 18. And because forest fires happened in Australia, in Brazil, even in Lebanon, and even in Canada. So just after the biggest fires in the history, we had this pandemic. So for the survival of the mankind, you have to keep your forest intact, and the maintenance of the forest is our responsibility as well as our survival technique or survival method, not a technique per se. But at the same time, the way the Finance Commission looked at it and distributed the money has to be criticized. And you have dissected the devolution of the Finance Commission properly. And of course, it is a beginning. That's number one. So you look at from a different point of view, how to maintain the forest. The maintenance of the forest across the world and in India and in Kerala are very important. And even the countries who are making biggest quantity of carbon dioxide have to compensate for maintaining the forest. So this is another point of view. Number two, our client is Kerala, though I am sitting in the opposition. See, our client is Kerala state. So as far as Kerala state is concerned, we have a percentage above the national level, number one. Number two, biodiversity has not been accounted. So you have to look at it. This is just like making an argument in a court. What has to be said and what has not to be said are very important. So I am interesting gift. You learn it. If biodiversity is counted, will we be benefited? That is be scrutinized properly. Only then you argue. Just finding something, you should not put it in your argument note. So this is just like going to a court. In the court, what is to be said and what not to be said. What not to be said is more important than what to be said, because we can add it. So it should not be stopped. We should not be stopped by our own statements. Of course, it's a good paper in that sense, and we have a case for keeping the forest. And as you said, we are not anything for the Campa, from the Campa. Why? See, when you look at the administration, you have put forward that presentation very well. What is Campa? Is it happening properly? or is this an expenditure on the paper? So instead of keeping a dense forest, you are saying that we have a forested X quantity of land. Is it a dense forest? No. So the forestation exercise cannot be counted in the money terms, the expenditure terms. So interestingly, I again confirmed from Narayan's paper, we have not claimed anything from Campa. That is very curious. So my suggestion is to the gift, you have to sit with Forest Department. Of course, you have done a good job from the Finance Commission angle and from the Public Finance angle, but go to the Forest Department and what has been happening in other states, you learn. What happened in Arunachal Pradesh, what they did, they will tell you.
It may be yet another centrally sponsored scheme.
Yeah, the point is, you have to see how people are getting, how they are utilizing. The third point is the tribal population has not been taken into consideration. But when you tell the Finance Commission, you take the amount of tribal population, we are the losers.
Yeah.
that you have to keep it in your mind. That you have to keep it in your mind. Because the percentage of population is 1.14%. But the presence of population, not only the tribal population, but the presence of peasantry in the fringe of forest is the biggest challenge we are facing from the forest. That has to be considered. So my point is very simple. Now it is a proxy, it will remain, and in this context, how we will get the best. Thank you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have. Thank you, Chair. I think it's a nice presentation. Congratulations to Narayana sir and our PhD students. 2-3 comments I have. The first one is regarding this non-tax revenue collection from forest area. Actually, earlier, before the Forest Conservation Act, we have got 22% of our non-tax revenue from forest. Now it reduced 22%. That is the largest. That is the, I think before 80. Before 80. Yeah, act before the act. And now it reduced to less than 10%. No, total non-tax revenue. That time the lottery was not there. It's very small amount, but the other items, it is the highest one. And so that has to be taken care of, whether that loss, that opportunity cost we loss out of this Forest Conservation Act. Yeah, logging. Another point I would like to add is, they mentioned about the NAP and GIM. That amount is too low. Just 200 crores in a country for maintaining this thing is nothing. We cannot say that, that is sufficient. No, it is not all. Camp, I think it's more. But in the case of camp, I think Kerala is not getting, because we already saturated that area. Because 44%, I think based on this geographical survey, 44% of our area is forest area. The satellite survey. Tree cover. In that case, in that case, I think we have to include this open forest also. Rather than this dense forest and mid cover forest. Yeah, that is very important. Then I think we will, because higher the the forest area, higher will be the our share. That is also there. And,
tree cover.
Tree cover.
Tree cover.
Not considered. That's true. See, because of this, our cultivable land is reducing. See, by protecting this forest area, including this afforestation, our cultivable land is reducing. And also, because of the sterile nature of Kerala land, we cannot do anything. The development purpose, we cannot use this area. So our case is different. compared to other, forest area places. That has to be considered separately, sir. I think, okay. Sir.
Yes, come on.
You want to answer now or? Okay. Thank you. Let me start by congratulating Professor Narayana and the team of GIFT scholars. It's a very well drafted paper, very well presented as well. And it's also a good beginning in the right direction, I suppose. That said, I have few clarificatory questions, comments, suggestions, however you would like to consider it. To begin with, when you have plotted the revenue expenditure on conservation cost and the forest area, I was thinking you could actually try and replot the graph by normalizing it with the forest area. Say, per square kilometer of forest area, how much money has been spent by the states. So that would change the scatter plot that you're looking at. So then the question is, would Maharashtra we still spending the highest amount of money per forest square kilometer? Okay, it need not be same, because if you're taking the absolute number could be misleading, right? And then the second part is about the opportunity cost. So that starts with the question, how does economic theory define the opportunity cost? Students? Yeah. No, how do we measure it? Okay.
They have used various methods, and the government Kamba fund, the Kamba is working under that guidelines.
Okay. So the economic theory defines opportunity cost is a summation of explicit cost plus implicit cost, right? So when we are evaluating whether opportunity cost is a good criteria or whether it satisfies, we have to also take into consideration it satisfies these two conditions or not. Am I right? Whether whether we are analyzing it in this perspective when we are using a typical economic theory. Now, why I ask this question is, see, if you are trying to compare whether there is opportunity cost, I would like to see it in terms of counterfactuals. Okay, say for instance, you take a state which has a higher forest cover area and try and mimic another state which doesn't have as much forest cover area. Okay, but structurally in terms of the size of the state area, in terms of area in square kilometers is more or less the same. Okay, then you see what kind of cost has been lost because of forest cover, extra forest cover. Okay, that's the implicit cost, right? Then we could think of the arriving at proxy for explicit cost. Even this particular graph that kind of caught my attention was when you compared Gujarat with Arunachal Pradesh. But isn't it like comparing oranges and oranges with apples? Because you see, there are two things that come into. One, which kind of forest area are we looking at here? Is it Arunachal Pradesh having a very high density of thick forest as compared to Gujarat? Then the proposals would obviously be changing. Then what about the other infrastructure bottlenecks that Arunachal Pradesh would have had, which would have restricted so these are the likely factors, right? So just with this measure and stretching up the argument, it could be slightly, contested. I'm not quite sure, but one needs to be cognizant of these other factors that could affect what you are seeing on the vertical axis, right? Only after one controls for it, one could think of a proper argument in this direction. Yeah. And the last question would be, okay, very good. Then if, see, one way which can catch the policy attention would be, is say, for instance, you develop an alternative measure and re-estimate what would have been the funds received if we had used measure 2, like in the initial remarks, Sri CP John has actually mentioned this. Why don't we generate scenarios? And if you use scenario 1, what would have been the revenue that each state would have received, and apply scenario 2? That means it would call for a couple of measures, and applying those measures, can we re-estimate the money that states would have otherwise gotten instead of using a simple forest cover area? So that could be one striking point for the policy. And I think going forward, you could do that as well. Thank you.
Anybody?
No.
I have one comment to add on to what Kiran said. It's regarding the opportunity cost. Again, let's take the example of Arunachal Pradesh versus Kerala. See, I mean, Arunachal Pradesh had what, 14 lakh people. Kerala, we have around 3.5 crore people. So what we are losing by not deforesting a square kilometer of forest for some one development project may be very different from what Arunachal Pradesh will be losing from, say, not deforesting a 1 square kilometer of project. So all this, I mean, what I feel is that the current proxies are fundamentally wrong, because we are not bringing in the population angle there. Unless and until we bring this population density to this entire argument, because that is the other side of the spectrum. There are people or institutions who are suffering because you have to maintain this forest. We just have to look around. In Kerala, it's one of the biggest issue as far as infrastructure development is concerned. So our opportunity cost will be much higher compared to a state like Arunachal Pradesh or Mizoram. I mean, per century, everything. I mean, if we start talking about the people who are living near the forest, we can discuss that for one entire day. That's an entire issue altogether. So unless and until we modify this opportunity cost specifically for each state, the current measure, the way they are considering, is absolutely wrong. And if we push it further, Arunachal Pradesh will keep getting more money and others will keep losing. Thank you.
You cannot be included because forest is not for sale.
Forestation, no,
Forestation we can't afford. Forestation we can't afford. Yeah, that's it. Five o'clock. 5.
Here there is a question of possession versus ruling party. So
Students.
same party. They belong to one tribe.
And you please talk to the tribal department also. My response, I shall add it.
Yeah.
The point is, we are spending 3% of our plan fund for ST, though we have only 1.5% of the population. No other state is spending like that. We had been spending only 2%, and in 2012 or 13, we have increased.
I think 10% is
SC. SCs are not living in forest. So STs, most of the STs are living in forest or near forest fringes. So we are spending from our plan kitty 3%. This is nearly 1,000 crore per year now, for example. So that also has to be considered. So unfortunately, after the dissolution of Planning Commission, nobody has anything regarding the expenditure. But from the Niti Aayog, you may get the expenditure for the scheduled tribe living in forests by each and every state. If anybody interested in that, faculty or students, researchers, please do that. So that we can argue that we are giving 3% of the plant fund to the ST. That also has to be compensated. That's my argument. Okay. So finally, Narayana. Two, 3 minutes.
No, let me, in fact, Anup, and let me start with Anup's opportunity cost argument as well as Kiran's. You see, one was very much aware of this, the population density and all these things. But then, you'll have to excuse me because within one month, I could not have introduced that and gotten a work out of it. So that is the next step, because this opportunity cost, without population density, just doesn't make any sense. This is fairly well known. This is the next step one has to take. So those arguments are well taken, Kiran. Thank you for that. Now that other point about which Kiran made about the plot, in fact, we have taken care of that in a slightly different way, because the very argument that, irrespective of your forest, share, that long horizontal band. So whichever way you normalize, the argument would be, it doesn't stand. So of course, one could do a very sophisticated exercise, but I don't think at this stage one can do that. Now let me come to CP's 3-4 questions. Now, tribal has not, in fact, National Afforestation Program, it was, Surya would answer it. It was actually, you see, it was a merging of 4 or 5 extant schemes in which the tribal livelihood was also one of the schemes. So that has been taken into account. So it's not entirely true that it has not. Now, you see that you raised this very important point about the utilization of Kampa funds. Now there, of course, we don't have a report for the recent period. Earlier period, we have a very important C&AG report where they have been 13. Yeah, 13. They have been very critical of the utilization of Kampa funds. In fact, they have state after state, they have said that, in some states, almost the entire fund has gone for purchasing vehicles and constructing quarters. Yeah. That is but we don't have any report of that sort for the last 10 years. So that is, of course, so this also raises a fundamental question. So many of the
Institute of Forest Management, there is one report.
Okay, that's we haven't. It's how recent is it? Is it
2007?
Yeah, it's also not. You see, for the recent period, because the money that comes under Kampa and being allotted to the states is much larger in recent years. Those days there are a lot of problems. The Supreme Court has been very systematically monitoring it these days. So yeah, because it's because of the Supreme Court's efforts that this Kampa got some sort of a proper structure.
So
otherwise,
15th Finance Commission referred this report, this Forest Department Management report.
But then, they don't really, because in their discussions, you don't see much of that at all. Now, then the other thing you mentioned about biodiversity has not entirely true. In fact, one of the justifications given by the 13th Finance Commission for doing that weightage, the enhancement, there they gave a much higher weight for very dense. One of their arguments was that biodiversity.
By default.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, but that is the way they took that into account. So one is aware of all these things, but still, I think the argument stands that it's a very poor proxy because of all these. No. That is the terms of reference in the 13th Finance Commission, the terms of reference. That is why they had allocated 15,000 crores under environment, forest and water and sanitation. 5,000 specifically for forest. So,
we have to sit with the forest experts, I won't say officials, in the forest department itself, and former conservators and all. And we have to listen them.
Can have a meeting with Joshi.
And
Online, he's in
what is our advantage? How we differ from Arunachal or Gujarat or Madhya Pradesh regarding the management of the forest, and how we are incurring more money or not incurring. So before making the argument, we have to be very clear about our positions.
No,
That's my point.
no, you're perfectly right. But we have, this is a starting point. We have
Yeah,
started
yeah.
the sort of a thing.
It's the beginning.
Now, these are the different directions which we need to work.
Way forward.
Yeah, way forward. And others have to take it up. Now they have shown the way. The new batch has shown the way. The others have to take it up. That's the way I would look at
We
it.
are closing.
So it's time
That's for the.
One minute. And since you have done a wonderful job regarding the forest, in the so-called pre-finance commission exercise, you may call it. So I would suggest that you can do it on the coastal management also. From that side also, we may be getting, not maybe in this finance commission, or later, the sea erosion, management of the seashore. I mean, so many other things. And wetlands.
Economy opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. So the point is, these are the points to be raised with proper arguments and facts and figures, not a wish list. Often we place some wish list in front of them, and they are very competent. They know how false it is. so you are our guarantee. Gift is the guarantee. Please.
I must say that we are, in the next coming months, our agenda is actually to work on fiscal federal relations in the context of 16th Finance Commission. And we are actually the whole community, the whole gift will be engaged only on that question. And from there, that will be, we are planning actually, in fact, we have an agenda basically from the institute in terms of starting a report to nation series. One on fiscal federalism and the other on taxation. And this will be, which we have all the new faculty and all joined now. So within 6 months' time, the report has to go to
the.
All right, I think, this is, and the report, I think Routledge will be bringing it out. Then we would like to have from these position papers, the amount of this thing should go for that's what we are planning. Let's see how far we will reach. I congratulate, of course, once again, DN and the newest batch for taking this, setting this beginning, I must say. And you have the prime responsibility taking the agenda forward as we go along. And others already, others will naturally join you. Just keep. So, I must thank you for coming, first of all. I think the fact of the case is that for you, I think for most politicians, the textbook is the people, but you also read a lot. I know that. So that combination of your practical experience, that's actually added, I must say, there's so much of, I would say, what I would say, the discussion was much more lively because of your presence. Others, it would have been little more sterile. You made it a little bit more lively, I'd say. And we look forward to having you again. And thank you all. Of course, the discussant.
Okay, finished.
And of course, my coordinators. Yes, I keep forgetting. Yeah.
Thank you.